Alright, welcome back, biology. We are continuing with this lesson with our organelles. We talked about last time the organelles that are going to be found inside the nucleus, and also we talked about ribosomes, which were produced in the nucleus but then shipped out, probably through a nuclear pore, if you remember those terms. So now we're going to do organelles that are outside of the nucleus. Now we're not going to be able to cover all of them because there's a ton of them, so we're just going to break it down and we're just going to get to a few today. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the endoplasmic reticulum. So endoplasmic reticulum is a mouthful, so it is kind of widely accepted that people just call it the ER. So ER, if you ever see endoplasmic reticulum, I won't ever make you write it out, just write ER. So the endoplasmic reticulum says eukaryotic cells contain an internal membrane system called the endoplasmic reticulum, or ER. The ER is where lipid, and another word for lipid is just fat, components of the cell membrane are assembled. So along with proteins and other materials that are exported from the cell. So I guess anything within our cell that has some type of fat associated with it, and again, fat is not always bad. Again, our cells make it naturally and it is kind of necessary for survival. So the endoplasmic reticulum is involved in the production of the lipid or fat components of the cell membrane and other portions that are exported out of the cell. And there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, if you remember from the activity we did to introduce this unit, and those two types are rough and smooth. So there's a picture of the endoplasmic reticulum. It kind of just looks like a bunch of folded up membranes is what it would look like. They're kind of all just stacked on top of each other. So as you can see, sometimes they're dotted with ribosomes, and when they're dotted with ribosomes, they are known as the rough ER, or rough endoplasmic reticulum. So this portion of the ER is involved in protein synthesis. So another word for synthesis is just to make. So keep that in mind. If you don't know what the word synthesis means, it just means to make. And then that's the rough ER, the part that is going to make, the part that is going to be involved in protein synthesis. And then ribosomes are found on the surface of rough ER. If you remember, ribosomes as well help make protein, so that kind of makes sense that those two are associated with each other. The rough ER that's involved in protein synthesis has the organelle that makes protein. And rough ER is abundant in cells that produce large amounts of proteins for export. So not all of our cells are exactly the same. I think we've talked about that before. So the cells that are going to be responsible for making the most protein are going to have more rough ER in them. So the next part of the ER is the smooth ER. And smooth ER does not have ribosomes on its surface, giving it a smooth appearance. Instead, smooth ER contains collections of enzymes that perform specialized tasks such as synthesis of membrane lipids, again that's what we talked about the first time, membrane fats, and detoxification of drugs. So that is what the function of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is. I'd say the most important part would be the synthesis of the membrane lipids. So the membrane is the outside part, and lipids just means fat. So the next one we're going to talk about is the Golgi apparatus. I think I heard a lot of you calling it the googly. It is not the googly, it is the Golgi apparatus, and it appears as just a stack of membranes. It's somewhat similar to the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, however, it will never be connected to anything else. It will always be off by itself, whereas the smooth ER and the rough ER are usually going to be in close correlation with one another. So looking at some of the functions of the Golgi apparatus, it has proteins that are produced in the rough ER. Okay, never mind, sorry, I messed that up. It says proteins that are produced in the rough ER move into the Golgi apparatus. So it starts, again, in the nucleolus. The nucleolus makes ribosomes. The ribosomes come in, they attach with the rough ER, they make the protein. After the protein is made, it ships it into the Golgi apparatus. And once in the Golgi apparatus, the Golgi apparatus modifies, sorts, and packages the proteins and other materials from the endoplasmic reticulum for storage in the cell or secretion outside of the cell. And then from the Golgi apparatus, proteins are then shipped to their final destinations throughout the cell or outside of the cell. So kind of a comparison I could make here would be maybe the Golgi apparatus would be almost like maybe like the post office or something like that. Everything comes in and it's kind of sorted to by where it goes, and then it is shipped out. So maybe the Golgi apparatus could be a good way to remember it would be the post office, because it gets things shipped in and then it ships out to where they're supposed to go. And the last thing we're going to address today are lysosomes. So we're going to look what is the function of the lysosomes. And lysosomes are small organelles filled with enzymes. And enzymes, we'll talk about those in a little bit. They break down lipids, carbohydrates, and proteins into small molecules that can be used by the rest of the cell. And lysosomes also break down organelles that have outlived their usefulness. So I would say a good analogy would be maybe the lysosomes are like the cleaning lady. They get rid of the things that you don't want anymore and that you cannot need. And enzymes are things that just kind of help with digestion. So lysosomes break down fats, they break down carbohydrates, and they break down proteins, as well as organelles in the cell that have outlived their usefulness, because at times things do die and they need to be replaced. So that is it for this lesson. Remember, the lysosomes are like the cleaning lady. They kind of get rid of the things we don't want anymore. Let me know if you have any questions.